Hey everyone, welcome to the channel and another review. I just got back from seeing The Cursed at the theater, so let's talk about it. So in this movie, in rural 19th century France, a mysterious, possibly supernatural menace threatens a small village. John McBride, a pathologist, comes to town to investigate the danger and exorcise some of his own demons in the process. So this is a horror film that released a couple weeks ago. I haven't gotten around to seeing it until this weekend. There's just been other stuff that has come out that was higher on my list. But I was aware that it was a new movie. I don't think I had like seen a trailer on my own. I looked up the trailer when I saw that this was releasing in theaters. And, I'm not the biggest horror fan, so it didn't pull me in. But it interested me enough, especially seeing that it was a period piece. And so seeing also that it was, I think it's in the 70%, something like that on Rotten Tomatoes, a pretty good score, I think, especially for a horror film, then it at least made it on my list as something that I was interested in seeing, even though it wasn't, top of my list to see it on the weekend that it opened. So that was kind of my expectations, or where I was at going into this movie. And with that, let's talk about what I thought of it. And for this movie, I think it just works better to talk about it in spoilers. I could talk about it very generally, but a lot of the things I liked or disliked about the film, I think you just kind of have to talk about it, or it's hard to speak to without actually going into specifics. So from here on out, full warning, we're gonna go into spoilers. But hopefully you've seen the movie and you care to stick around and just talk about the movie in general. So yeah, with that, we'll start off with the things that I liked about the movie, and the main thing I liked was just the atmosphere that was created. So this is a period piece, but it's very dreary, very cloudy and foggy, and I just thought it set a perfect mood for a horror film. So even though like the cinematography wasn't spectacular, it was good, but nothing to write home about. I thought the atmosphere that was created within the movie was very well done. And so kind of along those lines, the movie as a whole reminded me a bit of Sleepy Hollow, or it felt like it gave me some vibes as well as of Antlers, which came out last year, although, taking some aspects of that, but putting it within a period piece. So I liked both of those movies, and so I think so this isn't, it doesn't seem like the freshest thing ever. It definitely felt like some other things, but it's also not like your typical horror movie, given that it is a period piece. So I thought uh, it felt like a high budget, well, not like high budget. It didn't feel like a cheap period piece. We'll say that it felt well realized for being the late 19th, early 20th century in the movie. And kind of also noting for it being a period piece, I thought that actually worked very well for like the horror aspect, because we're not in current times, so you don't have electricity. So light, especially at night, is kind of hard to come by, and all you have are like oil lamps and candles. So I actually thought that was a very, helpful thing to create the horror atmosphere, because you can't just yell at the characters to turn on the lights. Like, why are you walking through a dark house? Well, you're walking through a dark house because it's dark out, and the best we got is candles. So that, I thought, yeah, worked well in favor of the horror genre for this film. And this actually was a horror film that I like, the type of horror film that I like a bit more. There weren't a bunch of like jump scares just for the sake of jump scares. So I personally don't like the feeling of being scared. I know it's like an adrenaline rush, but I personally don't care for that a whole lot. I'll deal with it if it's a good movie, but yeah, so I liked that there were very few of those, and that it focused more so on the like mystery aspect of it and the fact that it was a monster and that sort of thing, without the cheap jump scares that you get in other horror films. So this is not necessarily something that I liked, but I appreciated. And towards the beginning of the film, when you have the land, or like the people who were living on the land going to the gypsy camp, and just slaughtering them because they were, trying to claim the land, the right that they had to that land. That, yeah, I didn't enjoy this part, but I appreciated that the movie just makes you think, and reminds you that humanity at times can be very, very vile. Like, that was a very hard scene to watch, and I thought it was because it basically just it's a still camera, and it's just watching the scene play out, and yeah, it was very powerful. So that I thought was a well-crafted scene. And then kind of following up on that, as that scene resolves, you've got the one gypsy that they make into a scarecrow, and I thought that was like that was genuinely creepy for me. Like I would not want to go near that thing, and also just kind of a bit horrific realizing that like I'd seen that in the trailers, but had no idea that that was like a person inside of there. So that was just kind of a little hard to stomach as well for that. But I was glad that they kept all of the like I'd seen some of the shots in the trailers where that thing was like moving around, and I was glad that they kept that as just part of the dream sequences. And but that was that's scarecrows can be scary, not just to birds, but when they got dead humans inside, that's I think they're scary for people too. Just the one criticism kind of on that note though, I felt like if the field where they buried all the bodies had enough time for plant life to grow back, I feel like the body in the scarecrow would have decomposed enough such that there wouldn't be flies constantly buzzing around it. So I thought that's just a minor nitpick, but that was a thought that I had while watching the film. But yeah, so other things that I liked the scene where they were outside. I think they were putting up like barbed wire fence or something. But you had two men and a woman out, and they were talking like, "Hey, we got to stay within each other's line of sight." And then the guy that was saying that stereotypically for horror films, as it goes, wanders off on his own. But I was like, "Oh, here we go again. He's gonna get attacked." But the scene actually flips it on its side where the other two are the ones that then get attacked, and the other guy, I think he eventually does, but he's not the first one. So I thought that was a nice change of pace, and did what I wasn't expecting it to for the type of scene that it seemed like it was gonna be. And then the other thing I liked is I like that we found out what the monsters were halfway through the film. So sometimes you don't get to see if you're dealing with like a monster, for example, in the movie Super 8, like we only see the monster in like the second to last scene or something like that, very like at the way end of the film, and that's fine. But I liked seeing it in the middle of the film here, when they kill one and they're basically tearing it apart and that sort of thing. But like we actually get to see it in full detail. So at that point it turns into less of a mystery, and then like, hey, let's get this thing, let's kill it. And I like that change of pace, and like being like getting that knowledge halfway through the film, I appreciated. And then as the movie was playing out, I had a couple things that I thought would land this point in the negative category, but it actually turned out to be a positive by the end. And so like throughout the movie, you've got several characters that act pretty like stupid, as is kind of stereotypical for horror movies. Like you're why are you doing that? Why are you going in that direction? Some of them that, yeah, like the scene we just discussed where the guy goes off on his own. Like, you just said don't do that, and then you're gonna go do that. Or when the maid gets attacked, like I feel like she should have been aware of what was going on enough to be like, okay, I know that I'm now gonna turn into a monster. But she, for whatever reason, just chose to keep it secret, and that then endangered everybody else. So, like, characters like that just acting irrationally, I thought I was gonna put it in the negative, but it actually turned into a positive because by the end they actually have a couple characters not behave stupid. So you have the father when he does get attacked by the monster that was the maid. He does a smart thing in this context and makes sure that he doesn't become a monster. So he burns himself alive, and that's just to make sure that he doesn't attack anybody. And so I think having the kind of stupid characters before that actually highlighted that even more when they do make the right decision. Because I suppose the smart decision. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, it's easy enough to sit back and watch this and be like, hey, here's a smart thing to do. But it's very different, I think, if you are, living that situation. Like, people don't always make the best decision or the smartest decision. But yeah, so, and then the other one that was just a smart decision but difficult was in the end, when the mother is trying to reconnect with her son and knows that her son's inside the monster but won't get out of the way as the pathologist is trying to take his shot, he makes a hard decision and shoots the monster through her. And I thought, like, yeah, making those tough decisions was really powerful. And yeah, I think even more so given that there were other characters in the story that didn't make those tough decisions. So that's kind of a summary of the things that I liked about the film. Next, there's just a few things that I didn't care for as much. The first one is, like, while I liked seeing the monster about getting to see it halfway through the film, I didn't particularly care for the monster design. It wasn't bad by any means, but I mean, it kind of fit the mood of the film for just kind of a period piece and just being a little bit more straightforward or grounded maybe, but it wasn't all that interesting. But and it wasn't all that, like, believable either. I suppose it's like, yeah, how it went from, like, the person to that, or like where the vines kind of came from. I suppose it's just the curse, and that's what happens. So, but yeah, I don't know. All of that just had me kind of mixed on the monster. It was fine, nothing great though. I also thought that none of the characters were interesting, like absolutely none. They weren't, like, bad. I thought, like, the actors didn't do a bad job, especially the kid actors. None of them seemed weak or anything. But for a horror film where you've got bad things happening to the characters, it's a lot more powerful when you actually care about the characters and you're scared for them. And this movie just didn't have me emotionally invested in any of the characters. I didn't particularly like any of them, and so I thought that was just kind of just a negative on the film. Wasn't the worst thing ever. It wasn't like any of them were dislikable, but I just wasn't emotionally invested in any of them. And then maybe it was just me, but I didn't feel like they explained why the silver bullets. Maybe they did and I just missed it, but I mean, I know it's like a thing, and so I like to kill something with a silver bullet, kill a monster with a silver bullet, but I didn't get an explanation personally from the film, or it wasn't there as far as I could see. So if it was, definitely correct me if I'm wrong. Sometimes I don't follow all the plot points of a movie, but I felt like that was just unexplained, and it was there just to be there. But yeah, so I thought that was a weak part of the film. And then another note on the monster, I feel like for how the monster looked, and especially for some of the attacks, I felt like it should have been more brutal or lethal. Like, it basically only killed the one kid early on, and then all of its other attacks, the victim just basically got up and walked away. But maybe that was the point, so they could get up and, become a monster. But I don't know. I felt like that monster, yeah, it posed somewhat of a threat, but I thought it should have posed more of a threat and just, like, straight up killing people. But yeah, maybe that's just not what the movie was going for. So I don't know. Kind of a nitpick on my part. But and then lastly, I'm not sure how I felt about the opening of the film, where it's a flash forward from, where the main story takes place. I mean, it was kind of cool to see the war setting. It reminded me a lot of the Death on the Nile opening, but it was actually really cool to see, like, the three bullet holes and then the doctor pulling out the bullets and then getting that silver bullet out, and you're like, oh boy, what, like, this guy, like, was this guy just, like, involved in some monster hunting and that was, a side effect, or did this guy actually used to be a monster, and is he going to change into a werewolf now that we took that out, or whatever it was. So, like, that part of the scene I did really like, but given that it then went back to the story, the beginning of the story, I felt like it kind of gave the ending away because you knew that like, you could assume as much that that was the boy and that he was going to survive and that he was going to be shot and that's how he was going to become not the monster again. So that's not necessarily the worst thing to kind of give a flash forward to your ending. Like it's yeah, I know some people, like I had a friend in high school and he said that he wouldn't care if you told him what happened at the end of a book because he enjoyed the journey to get to the end and it wasn't just about what happened. I am of a slightly different opinion in general. Like I prefer people to not spoil things, but I can kind of see that sentiment, and I think that's where this movie falls in by giving that away early on. So it's not the worst thing ever. I have kind of mixed feelings on it that they basically tell you that that boy is going to survive up front. But yeah, so just some kind of minor nitpicks, some mixed things. Overall, a lot of good here. A lot of things that I liked for it being a horror film. So yeah, overall, I enjoyed the movie as a horror film. I think as much as I enjoy horror films in general. But yeah, so I thought it was a good movie, one that I'd recommend. I think on a grading scale going from S, A, B, C, and D, like giving it a letter grade out of those, I'd put it in the B category, which is kind of like the lower tier of good movies. Higher tier would be A. But yeah, so I thought it was a good movie. Not like the best new gotta see horror film, but it's a solid movie and I think worth checking out if you're a fan of the genre. So yeah, that does it for my review for The Cursed. If you've been able to see the film, I'd love to hear your comments down below. So this is a spoiler review, so don't worry about not commenting. Like, feel free to spoil away in the comments. And yeah, if you liked this video, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss my next review. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.